Okay, testing.
All right, Michael, welcome. We're actually on stream already, so it's good. We can do a sound check, probably.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, thank you for already being on stream. I will take a look here.
Yeah, no worries. Hold on, I'll just lower the volume of the game a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. It was a bit
Absolutely
short
glad to make
notice.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this one. It got a bit difficult with the timing just after the weekend there, but I'm happy to see that the matches have been played, and then looking forward to this one. This is or Useless versus Animorph, and then whoever wins
Ooh.
this one is going to go up to meet Orbnet. I'm guessing they'll play pretty soon after.
Ooh, that's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. Can we get a sound check for anyone's watching? Could you confirm if the volume's all right on our voices?
Yeah, we got Oscar and Rat King there in chat. Like to recruit you guys for the sound check here. Volume's good.
Nice
According to
one.
Oscar.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. So it's Animorph versus Useless. This is interesting. I don't have my notes up here, so let me get my notes up. But I think I've said it multiple times that Useless is kind of coming out of the ranks here. He's been a dark horse through this whole tournament, so he's come very far.
Yeah, I'm just checking now as well with the. Yeah, I remember some of the matches that we watched. It was cool. So maybe he'll interesting to see. And Animorph is played good. I don't think I've seen too many of Animorph's matches actually, so I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah, we had a little bit of Animorph in the background of one of our games. I think we saw that one was kind of a general. That one was pretty direct, I think. But there was not as many resources on that map, I think, as well.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is interesting. Animorph came into this 30th ranked in the world. He did drop. Who did he get dropped by? Valathor put him into the losers bracket, but we saw Valathor go pretty far too. He only got dropped by Orbnet, and then the only other person who's beat Valathor is Hawk, and Hawk is also one of the top players. So it's really interesting to see kind of the back and forth between some of these top players and the way they kind of match up to each other when different people play each other.
Yeah, and Animorph knocked out. Someone said my nickname. So
Yeah.
from the losers, that is. So
He knocked him out. In fact, Animorph has a couple of interesting scalps on his plate. Honestly, he took out Nickname, which is a huge one. So he took out the number 2 player in the world, and that was big. He dropped him out. The only other person to beat Nickname was Orbnet and Juiceless, he's about to face right now. So these are the only people to beat Nickname are all gonna play against each other. So I think that's kind of interesting. And then he also beat Crazy Flying Chicken, who I also said was a dark horse. He beat Hako, he beat Electricity, so Animorph, and then he beat Hawk. So Animorph has some serious scalps under his belt, but so does Juiceless. So I'm very curious to see who comes out on top of this one.
Yeah, for sure. And the one I've gotten the best read on, I think, is in fact Orbnet now. So it's going to be exciting to see what the final will hold, because I think the few matches that I've saw he's going very heavily on expanding, and as he's written as well in his tips and stuff about the helicopters being so important. And the matches that I've seen, it's artillery, expansion, and helicopters. So it's going to be interesting to see if people are starting to get a read on it and maybe coming up with a counter for it.
Yeah, and even saying that, I still think Orbinet's hard to counter, because it's one thing, like, we understand he has a really good base of building that artillery core, of building that helicopter core, but he's also really good at decision making, and he's really good at countering what the other players build. He has Sam's up at the right time. He's building air at the right time. He gets out these different units. He's really good at decision making while operating off of that strong base. So there's my alarm. Apologize, folks. It's not even enough to know that he's going to come out with those artillery and helicopters. He's going to counter you, and you have to be almost ready for the counter.
Yeah, yeah, it's you're probably right. And even if you do have a read on a common strategy countering those, I've noticed that as well. Because when you face it, even if it's coming at you, it could be difficult to counter it. So knowing a playstyle doesn't necessarily mean you can counter it.
Yeah, but all eyes on Orbnet now, or they're gonna be. But for right now, it's Juiceless and Animorph who have
Yeah,
center stage. So let
let's
us
go for
see.
it. Yeah, so I'm gonna load it up. Animorph versus Useless.
An hour 6 minute match, so they slugged it out for a while, huh?
Yeah, let's sit back. If you haven't got anything to drink, you should go grab something. Let's have a quick look at the map here. We've got a... Okay, so we've got a mainland here. Oh, they
Yep.
went straight for the picking. That only took 10 seconds, and they both found the center. So
Yep.
this is obviously going to be the main stage for the whole map, and whoever can maybe leap out and get some of these extra resources. We've got even some trade routes, but under the stress of a tournament, I'm not sure if anyone's going to make it out there or if it's going to be all center map. What do you think?
I think this game went for an hour, and I think we've seen some of these things play out before. When you have a map where we have one large landmass and then a few other uh, land masses that are big enough to be strategically viable, I think what we're going to see is both players start on this center landmass, and then it's going to be the players who can both fight the battle on the mainland and still complete the expansion into those side territories. That's the player that's going to tip the balance in this game. We've seen this happen in a few other matches where it's the player who you still have to fight that battle right on the mainland, but you have to make those strategic decisions to get the extra resources to expand out into those colonies. That's the player who's going to win.
Yeah, I think you're right. And like you said, they definitely they favoring this center map, and they're picking picking everything out of it. So I'm guessing we'll see maybe someone will start favoring the east side here, and we'll get this semi-close start now. So it's going to be a bit of a race for. We've got energy wells here in the west. We've got it's a little bit more scarce here in the east in terms of energy. So I'm realizing that they're favoring the picks in this direction.
Yeah, and you know what? I think no matter where they end up, energy is going to have to be a concern. No one's going to be able to expand without some kind of access to energy, not for long. Either you have to do paradrops or you got to do drop ships, but there's no way to do it otherwise, right? So both sides are looking for that energy well right now during these pick and ban phase. I think they and having pushed themselves out of the middle, those two middle energy wells, I think, are going to be off limits. I think they're going to be in a battle zone. We got our picks here.
Yeah. Yeah, no one did a water pick. That would have been too far anyway. Sometimes you can sort of jump out into the water and get a little semi-secure early well, but I understand why no one went for that because it's too far away to the corners there. So we've got Useless starting here in the west side, and Animorph went for the right side. So, and we're going for a strong. Someone wants to do a tank push, but considering there's no energy, that's a pretty bold move, don't you think?
I think that is a bold move. I think like the two energy wells in the middle of between them. I think those are off limits now. I think that's a front line. Anyone would be crazy to build on those. Animorph has one to his south. He might be able to hold onto, but it is a little bit distant from him. Actually, I'm not even sure. I might be hallucinating there. Yeah, no, never mind. There is not one to his south. He's gonna have to
Yeah,
find a different one.
Yeah,
So
it's a
and
bit
he's
tricky
building
to
tanks.
spot them. Yeah, yeah, and he's got no. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Useless is going for a shipyard. He wants to get for that early expansion. He wants to send a couple of infantry straight away to start conquering. That's. But since I think he knows that they started far enough apart that it could be a viable strategy to do it. And he goes, Useless goes straight for artillery here, and a few SAM. I think he's going to be prepared for. Not for tanks. He's not going to be prepared.
No, I think that the tanks could be an early decisive. I don't think it'll set the tone for the beginning of the game. Useless does have access to some secure wells, especially that one northwest of his kind of core position there. That one should be pretty safe for him to build, and it's going to let him have that navy. He has another well right there in the water. He's not going to be able to reach to. So I think we're going to see Useless if he can capitalize on an early energy lead, that's going to help him big time in this, and especially if he can colonize with it, he's going to pay big dividends for him.
Yeah, I'm still a bit baffled here. How's this going to be powered?
He's gambling on the early power. I mean that's the choice he's making. I think he knows that Useless is going to spawn where he's going to spawn. It's going to be it's. I guess I think he's betting on knowing that he's spawning in that area, and he's going to try
Hmm.
to deny. You see, he's that move order is straight for the well. He's trying to deny the well, make sure that Useless can't get it. My problem with that strategy, though, is it doesn't ensure him the well. So these tanks might be able to hold that position, but they're not going to be able to do much after that.
Yeah, and we're seeing a very cautious move. Of course, no hasting. He's already spent more than half of the energy of the start, and he's nearly capturing this. I'm guessing really wants to make sure he's going to get this well. It's going to be difficult to protect, though, later on, unless he sends some more troops there. So we're seeing the tanks are being used a little bit for scouting, but see, they're nearly out of energy now, so they're going to be immobilized in just a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I think that it's a bold move, but I feel like it's really dangerous to do that type of thing with your early beginning energy, especially with tanks. With early beginning energy, I like to see something like helicopters, maybe something you can string out for a while, get some tactical use out of. Those tanks are going to be dead in the water shortly.
Yeah,
They got to do something now.
this is it. They're going to be stuck there. They're just sitting ducks now. The artillery's even going to eat them up now, just from a bit of a distance. And if he just if Useless is going to see them puff now, and he's still away for to capturing these. He needs to bring these troops in and panic build something here. But I think now he doesn't necessarily need the energy anymore now because those tanks are going to be gone, and he's not producing any more of them. So I guess they were a very expensive scouting force.
Yeah, and it did tie up useless forces for a little while, but I don't know that that's that beneficial. It just means that Useless concentrated more people. That big group that Useless now has in his central base is just about to go out and probably attack. So I think it might have bought Animorph some time and space, but I don't know that it would have been worth uh, quite the investment to build and then all the energy to get them over there.
Yeah, one thing he's banking on Animorph might be wanting to send a message that he's going to go tanks. So, and he's not going to produce anymore, and Useless is going to have to maybe think he's producing an airport now because he wants to counter those. But that airport is going to be very useful anyway. And Animorph actually producing some commandos here. He's been spotted already, but
Interesting. Yeah, he's trying to contend in that forest. That's good. I like keeping the fight on the other person's territory. Keep the fight in their side of the woods. He has his woods, they got their woods, keep the fight in their woods. I don't know that he's going to be able to keep doing that. He's got a strong artillery counter on the way. And the other thing, I said it right at the beginning that I would love to see is I want to see Animorph expanding off this main continent. That's always going to be a concern because even if he can manage to contain the fight here with Useless, if Useless is expanding uncontested out into those side territories, that's going to be a problem down the line.
it's going to be a problem if they stay like this, where they have a split down the middle and own half the main. Then Useless is going to have a huge advantage being across here. Usually, if the other one does go for an expansion, you want to try to push all your forces to capitalize on that extra money that was spent on that early expansion. But I think Useless did a really smart choice to. He knew that they were going to start far apart, and he knew that there was a window there. Oh, but Animorph has managed to push through with those commandos and found that airport. And I don't think Useless necessarily. He's just going to see the smoke and he hears that suppressed fire from those commandos.
You know what? I think if Animorph can keep Useless tied up and reacting to things like this, it might buy him the time he needs. It's not the strategy, the first pick I'd go for, but it's a high risk, high reward strategy. If he can tie up Useless like this and prevent Useless from launching a coordinated attack, and it allows him to bite at the sides and take these chunks of territory away. If he can win on the mainland outright, that's just as good or better as keeping control of those colonial expansional territories. If he can push Useless into a really bad defensive position right away, then Animorph can make it work even if he can't expand off the isle.
Yeah. What's going to work in Useless' favor to defend himself, I think, is that Animorph is he's got a long trek. Both he's got to come off the mountain, go through the forest, or come out early through the forest. So that actually speaks in Useless' favor a little bit, that he's going to have that time that he might need, except for these commandos, of course, that are maybe going to do some... are we going to see maybe a cap in the corner? It's too tricky, I think, because it's not that far away, so...
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting choice to make. You see the move order of Animorph is going through the forest. He's doing that because he wants to stealth, right? However, you do sacrifice speed instead of just going over the overland route. And I think that's a choice. I think we see a lot of commanders make the choice to take the stealth route. We'll see people use mountains as roads, especially that type of thing. And it does slow the troops down, but I think people really value the stealth. And it's hard to know what the other person can see of your forces. You know, you never know exactly how much they know about what you have. So it makes people, I think it gives a sense of comfort when you're using the forest like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually he went for a capture. Animorph is, or maybe he wasn't paying attention possibly, because when the commandos reach the tip of their move path there, they switch over to their default command, which or directive, which is to capture. And that revealed the location, because Useless could spot that you had the capping territory boundaries there. So I think even though he went through the forest, unfortunately lost that stealth advantage that they came with.
It did, though perhaps it is keeping Useless from making a decision here. Useless has really kept his forces close to home here. He's not really contesting for the ground here, and especially that kind of peninsula to the south. If Animorph can secure it, he might be able to build that well and defend it. And if he can do that, then he's going to have energy. Oh, so now we're seeing Useless now launch that attack. So that's really the question here. Can we take a look around the side of the map, see what we have for expansion going on?
Yeah, so Useless, he did land the troops. He's built a barrack, so he's going to be able to accelerate this expansion. He's planned all his conquering paths here. Always nice to be able to do those, and so you don't end up with a bunch of units that are just standing around. He hasn't sent anything down south, and I think there are quite a few ships here. So it tends to see, it seems like Useless is quite focused now on the land battle, because he's got a cruiser, a missile ship, and maybe it's... oh yeah, he doesn't have any energy yet either, so that's why he's producing a few of those. And we're going to see a battle now in the center stage here.
Yeah, and he's getting up another airfield, which is an interesting choice. You know, he lost the other one. He wants to get that aerodynamic operational. We're seeing a lot of SAM already out of Animorph. He predicted, I guess, that he'd seen more air. He did take out the airfield. Maybe he was thinking there was a double out there, which is a common opening, so not an unreasonable thing to think. In an artillery blob like this, honestly, I really like Animorph's formation. He already got his troops kind of in a line in that semicircle formation when he's got all his cannons blasting. Meanwhile, if you look closely at Useless's formation, there's still some artillery trying to find their position. They're stuck in the back line, so they're really not contributing to the overall firepower. That said, I think Useless has more numerically right now.
Yeah, you always want to have that concave arc if you can, but I think they just got outnumbered. So we see a lot of junk here. That's the remains that we've got there. But and let's have a look at Animorph. He's got a long way to go to resupply those, and it's wise to pull back those. A move command is always good. You don't want to leave it on engaged, because then they'll get tempted to go ahead and fire. So he's returning a little bit now and moving back to resupply his lines.
Yeah, and it looks like Animorph kind of sacrificed some SAM there to try to soak up some damage. But I think he both realized he's not seeing any air. Maybe thought he could save some time with the SAM. But he is going to lose some ground here. Useless is producing a good amount of artillery, and that's going to be a problem because their production... I don't see how many factories we got on either side. We have four on Animorph's side, and I think I saw 3 on Useless.
I think we've got 5 here.
Five,
and 2 barracks, and then Useless has got 3. But he did get a good exchange there, and so I think he kept many more of his original artillery. But he definitely has more producers, and Useless is going for another airport, so that's his second one. So they're going to be useful. if he can get. I think we'll see if Animorph has already got a few SAMs, so he's gonna have to figure out how to use that the Air Force effectively. And
Yeah,
as we also saw that Animorph has actually constructed the shipyard now, so he wants to start to conquer out in the islands. Wise move as well, and he's having to go for a power plant here because he's got 0 energy now, and it's going to be his. But I think his plan now is just to create a few troop ships, and the power plant will be sufficient to power those to get that conquering going, at least on the islands.
yeah, and he is going for building it in the mountains, which you take that 50% penalty, but you have to judge taking that penalty versus having it in the mountains, having a little bit more stealth bonus to it. Sometimes it's a debate for me. Sometimes if I have a territory like against the edge of the map or something, I'll tuck a power plant there if I'm going to build them, just because they're out of the way and you can build them on the open ground and not have to wait. And I find a lot of the time those rear territories tend to be pretty safe over the long term of the game. If those get attacked, you're probably losing anyway.
Yeah, I would have probably even put it over here, to be honest.
Yeah, past the
uh,
mountains, right near the edge of the map, that type of stuff.
yeah, that's their strength, but they really do not produce a lot of energy, especially if you've already got a few C units and you can't really bunker up that energy.
Yeah, it's gonna take those ships even with the little energy they have. It'll take them a little while to get there if they're running out. But we are seeing some air come up again for the first time. We're getting some significant air power here. Going to be able to deal with some infantry, no problem. But we are seeing a lot of SAM with the main formation. And with some air power, you can kind of dodge around the SAM. But because all the forces are kind of in one place, there's really no place to dodge around. He's going to have to fight that SAM out.
Yeah, and he's using that to do some assistance up here to deal with the commandos, and then we're gonna have this another big main battle here in the center field. So, and we've got this arc that Animorph had last time, but he's got more units this time, and he's getting possibly a surround on useless artillery here.
Yeah, that concave arc really benefits your formation. It's going to let you get more guns on target than the person who's bunched up in the middle, and it's gonna give you kind of a higher fire rate. It is like we saw in the previous battle, that is vulnerable to just kind of a numbers advantage, but the formation itself is advantageous. Now, we also see a couple of artillery coming around from the top side for Animorph, so he's going to get kind of a flank on this position as well. That said, I mean, Useless just has so many artillery, and now we're close to his production lines as well. So for him to send in new artillery is just not that long of a trip. So I think we're going to see Animorph get pushed back here again, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. It seems to be a repeat, pretty much a carbon copy of the last face-off they had there.
It is, with the distinction, though, that now Useless is counterattacking on multiple fronts. He's now attacking on that southern front, retaking some of that lost ground that he was able to, that the Animorph was able to take from him. And now he's taking care of that problem that he had with commandos. He's not losing that airfield again to another commando strike like he did last time. The air power was able to respond. So he's taking that kind of north and south pincer approach. So even if he just does okay in the middle, and he's doing more than okay in the middle, he's winning on the other two flanks. So Useless is kind of building up the time here.
Yeah, and we're seeing this time it was more successful, even though Animorph's units had to do the edging forward, whereas it's always beneficial if they can stay deployed, which Useless units did this time. But I think Animorph just managed to resupply with enough artillery now to start outnumbering it in return. So it seems to go in Animorph's favor this time now.
Absolutely. How about we take a look at economy? We're about 20 minutes in, almost over getting the airfield put down.
Yeah, so we've got Animorphs at 896 and Useless is at 824. So a slight advantage for Animorph, albeit as a very small one at this point.
Yeah, and I think maybe the gamble Animorph was making is that he does have more of the Baneland under control just by the nature of his position in that forest. I would say it's probably like a 60-40 split. And Useless is going to have to rely on eco buildings and outside conquest in order to make up the difference. That said, he's making up that difference. He's conquering a full other island, and he's got another one kind of on the way.
Yeah, and we also noticed while we were focusing on the main battle there, we actually had Useless took out Animorph's shipyard and all the ships except one transport or landing craft here. But he did. Animorph managed to send a few conquerors across, which was probably a very important thing. And maybe he can save this troop ship for some later movement. But at sea, it's definitely favoring Useless at this point.
Yeah, Useless seems to have kind of uncontested sea control, which is going to be really good for him because even if Animorph manages to take control of that southern island, it means Useless is going to be the one able to set up a response to it. He can set up a landing kind of at his pleasure, and he'll be able to set the pace and the tone of when that island becomes part of the fight. And that's one of the things you have to consider. You know, when you lose one of the aspects of range, you know, if you lose the naval or if you lose the airfield, that means the other person gets to set the tone as to how that stuff happens, and you're going to be always responding, and you never want to be in that position.
Yeah, and I think Useless is also starting to reach these economy buildings, so even a city here with a couple of or three industries, whereas Animorph is also, he's got a little bit of eco here, but not much to go for, plus it's threatened by the sea anyway. So landmass wise, there's not much left for Animorph to conquer. He's got most of the stuff that's on his side, some back capping going up here. Well, there's a fair amount still to capture there. But we're knocking at the door now at Useless from Animorph. But again, we're seeing these supply lines getting really stretched out, and an incredible amount of counter artillery and also some infantry, which is good cannon fodder here to be produced.
Yeah, I think that's a difference we're seeing is that Useless is having infantry fight on the front lines, and Animorph not producing quite as much, I would say. That said, I think Animorph has invested heavily into the production side of things. He's pumping out a ton of artillery, but he's not making any deep eco investments here. We're not seeing cities get put down. He has one that's kind of vulnerable inside his base, but there's another one further back that he hasn't put down on anything as well. And for him to keep this advantage, especially while Useless has control of the Navy, he's going to have to think about putting down some cities at some point in order to make sure that economy is still growing.
Yeah, these are a lot of producers, and he's right at the edge now. He's going to have where the upkeep is going to keep him from utilizing all of these nice buildings that he's got here. So the answer is not always to just put down more producers. You have to really make sure that you have the funds to actually keep producing in all of them. And we might even see some of these production floors becoming empty, and we've even got an airport here now.
Yeah, it looks like I said, that, you know, the north-south battles were being won by Useless, and now we're saying that paid dividends because Useless has infantry knocking on the doorstep of the airfield there, and Animorph is going to have to turn and defend it. He was doing really well throwing everything into that center battle, but that only lasted so long. Now he got pushed back, and he's pushed back on the north and south, so he's kind of pushed back on all fronts here. We're seeing Animorph kind of go into a defensive position.
Yeah, he's forced back to retreat again to defend, and now we're seeing the role reversal here, where Useless is starting to push his units forward. And if we have a look over here in the west, everything is captured here now, and this is these units got to be able to ship down. He's already going all the way to the southwest island. He's capping this one, and this is the only one that Animorph managed to grab at sea, and he doesn't have we even got a second shipyard now from Useless coming up, so he's really committing to, he wants to control this, and I think it's definitely in Useless favor right now. I think the stress is growing on Animorph at the moment.
Yeah, and I think they're both fighting back and forth well on that center battle. You know, I said this right at the beginning, but it's the person making those periphery decisions that's winning right now, and I'm seeing that be Useless. He has energy production right now. That's important. He's got naval control. That's important. You know, he invested in these things, and now they're paying off later down the line. And I think that's what you see in a lot of line wars. It's a decision making game. You know, if you make good decisions, you get rewarded for that. And I think that's what we're seeing here in this match. I think Animorph wanted to get majority control of the mainland, and he got that. But he's paying for that by not really having access to the energy that he might have otherwise had. And that's, you know, it means he can't really contest in the naval field, and it means he can't really respond with much air power. So he's going to have to shake something up here. He's got to change something.
Yeah, and Useless is sending his strikers to where there is no anti-air at the moment, and Animorph is trying to bring a few, but he doesn't have that many SAMs around. He's got a few helicopters, and the helicopters favor to try to find aircraft. They want to launch their Sidewinders first if they can, but it's only a couple of helicopters at this point, and we're seeing this is definitely like this line here, diagonal, is being drawn right from the beginning of this game, and 24 minutes in, it's right. They're still battling there. And the metagame, I guess, is whoever can capture all of the extra economy. And we're going to see. Let's do another verification here. And Useless is at 1156, whereas Animorph is at 1028. So not a huge difference yet, but I think we're going to see it continuing in that direction.
Yeah, and I think the important, while it's not a huge difference, it is flipped, right? We saw Animorph have that early lead in the economy, and now he's not able to maintain it. I think that's a combination of Useless doing diligent expansion, but he's also taking war gains, as D20 calls them. You know, those really important territorial captures that flip the enemy territories. And as you pointed out, that's, you know, the best type of capture you can have. It denies the enemy their economy and it builds yours up. So it's kind of that double whammy. It really widens the gap between you and the enemy. We are seeing kind of a counterattack here at Animorph. But I think we should be able to see a sound defense by Useless. He's producing just enough, I think, to supply these. Though we are seeing a bit more investment by Animorph in that northern front, but it's kind of unsupported. It doesn't have any SAM with it, so the strikers are kind of having a free meal here.
Yeah, I'm seeing that Useless is really paying attention to where Animorph has got his SAM. Because he did send his strikers down south first. They did a great job there. Animorph started to move his SAMs down there, and then Useless managed to spot the movement in the northern mountains there and decided to go with the strikers there. So he's really finding those areas where they can operate without being under threat.
Yeah, and I think that's paying pretty good dividends for him. He needs to Animorph. If he can keep that up on the north, it looks like he's going in there rather uncontested. Can we see it from Useless side? I'm not sure that he has what he has there in the northern forest there to contest. He does have some infantry in position, so he's not going to be completely helpless up here, and that's really good for him because that means he's not going to be surprised on that front.
And as we say that, I think we're seeing quite an interesting movement right now because Useless is forced to retreat and he doesn't have that much in his base, and we're seeing a huge amount of artillery and backed up by some SAM probably coming in now as well. And it's going to be plus Animorph is also managing to, if he can operate his units and manage them up here, he could probably outnumber Useless up there as well. So I think I would have switched off the production here. I think we're just seeing that now, actually. We saw an order cancellation there. But it's still producing something, possibly. No, it's returning to default, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, I know for a fact that Useless is feeling the pressure right now. He's got 800 gold in there, and there's no reason to have more than 500 gold in the bank at any point in time, really. You could tell he's forgetting to place down there. He is getting up another airfield. I think he's seeing, though there is SAM, there's not an overwhelming amount of SAM, and there are gaps and opportunities for him to build more air force. And I think the supply line's close enough for him. We could see a successful defense here, but he is under a lot of pressure. And I'd be curious to see where Animorph is sending his second wave here. You can see a bunch more artillery now going north. So even as Useless is fighting the previous battle, Animorph is already setting up the next battle. We've talked about this in other games where you want to layer on the pressures, right? When they're already thinking about something, set up the next thing. So the next thing you don't give them time to kind of rest or breathe. I love to see that kind of strategy out of these commanders. So Animorph is pulling out all the stops here to turn this around.
Yeah, and I think I sense the panic a little bit in Useless, and I would be feeling the same because he's right at the doorstep now, and a lot of extra supplies are coming down. So I think we saw a little bit of an overcommitment. We've got a whole bunch of cruisers just laying about, costing a lot of upkeep, and they cost a lot to produce as well. And it's always good to control the sea, but not at the expense of losing your starting position on the main island. That has to be your top priority at all times. Anything that you can capture abroad or across the sea, it's a bonus, but you cannot lose it. But I understand why it happened too, because It did look very good and favorable for Useless just 5 minutes ago when he did those striker raids. And so this hidden production here, we can see that Useless only has a read on 1 airport and 2 factories. So it was a really smart move, I guess, by Animorph, and he could actually keep the production up from all those producers to get the payment from it now.
Yeah, you know, I really wonder about this because I feel like Animorph had to have known that he was going to go into this with an energy disadvantage. And what he has done really well so far is he's kept a lot of things in Useless's face. From the beginning of the match with those with that tank assault, while it didn't really pay off that well, it set a tone, right? I'm going to be in your face, I'm going to be close. Animorph is making this a really ugly kind of like brawl match. You know, he's not really letting up, the pressure's really high. And he's making it really in Useless's face. And now actually we're seeing it pay off where Animorph is now firing on a producing factory. So if he takes out a factory, I think that's going to be one of the first structural losses. There it is, the first one of the big structural losses we've seen in this game. That's not good. We know, is Useless still producing? Where's his economy? I think both of them are redlining their economies at this point.
Yeah, they're still very much on the edge here. 11.48 for Animorph, and Useless is at 12.22. So he does have a slight advantage. But if I was Useless, I'd probably. I mean, it's good to recon, but I'd consider even disbanding these in favor of going for just maximizing the production, because this is a real panic moment right now. I cannot see, these are not supposed to get sent to the front line. If anything, try to retreat them even more. So even you can get a few artilleries firing to maybe damage some of the buildings. In return, maybe you get to keep a few of yours. But this is going to be a real, this is really, really dangerous right now for Useless.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think we're seeing even more pressure now. Some infantry from Animorph coming out of the woods in the north there, attacking a barracks. He has successfully kind of cut off a lot of Useless's options in terms of where he can move and really shut down the maneuverability. And although he is, you know, his supply lines are really long, he's got so many producers right now that it's really working out for him. So I think Animorph didn't have the long-term economic advantage, but the early economic advantage that Animorph had, he did invest in just having that huge production capacity, which I think is a risk still. It's working out for him, but I think that's always a risk because you're betting that versus economic expansion. But it's kind of worked out for him. Oh, we're seeing an island invasion. Did Animorph invade that island?
Animorph did actually successful transfer, but he's lost the South Island in return,
he traded
so it wasn't
it,
a good trade. Yeah, and he's going to get taken out here as well, so he's going to lose all the islands. But again, the islands out here are only worth so much, and it's not going to replace the fact that you're losing the main now. And he's got only a couple of industries there, so there's no real economy. And again, this is going to be the focus point of the next coming minutes now. Whatever happens out here is just in the periphery, and this is we've got this beautiful arc from Animorph right now. And it's just firing on anything that Useless is producing, and it's eating up the producers along the way as well.
It is. And you know, I think the other problem now is that the SAM positions have gotten so close that it doesn't matter where the air goes. As soon as it's going to go up, it's likely in range of SAM at this point, just because it's so close to the airfields.
Yeah, and also Animorph is recapturing all of these territories, so these used to be Useless's territory. And for everyone, you get 12 capital per minute in bonus when you capture one, and Useless is losing 12 per capital per minute by just not controlling them anymore. So this is I'm really interested to see what Useless is going to do now, because this is an incredibly tough situation he's in.
It is. You know, I think. Where the gamble here was about the position of the energy. Useless did get the energy position. He did use it to expand the Navy. I honestly think Useless did a lot of things right in this game, and I think the result we're seeing here is a decision by Animorph to really focus on that Central War at the expense of everything else. And I think that's a risk, right? Because if this had gone on a little longer, I think Useless would have grown his economic advantage over time, maybe made some investments into buildings and cities and started putting those up, towns and cities. But Animorph, I think he was able to invest enough early enough that the pressure became too high before that could happen, and that's what we're seeing now is kind of the collapse of Useless's central base. I think this is
Yeah.
we can call it a defeat at this point. He's only got 3 producers left. He's going to lose this base.
Yeah, and the air's not even going to be able to take off like you noticed before. He's Animorph has positioned his SAM really nicely as well to just deny any aircraft from doing any damage at all. And I think there was a window maybe about 10 minutes ago where if useless, but it's not easy to know. I mean, we see both sides, so it's easy for us to say, like we say.
Yeah.
But all of those extra cruisers that he had, if those could have gotten disbanded maybe, and even get rid of one of the shipyards and then retreat your units and rebuild your defenses. But again, I think it was a very clever move here from Animorph, and I was skeptical that the economy would support all of these producers. But clearly, he's got a really good knowledge about that, or he's extremely lucky. But I'd go for the first one. I think he knew that he was in a good position to have all of this hidden there.
Yeah, I think he redlined his economy, and then for the people viewing, when I say redline the economy, I mean that he ran his upkeep so close to his production line. He was below 100 per minute at one point. Animorph, I think you saw him was like 80, maybe dipped into 70. He was really low on his actual production, so that means he really had no room to invest. He had put all his chips on the table for his military production. That's kind of like in poker, that's an all-in move, right? You're betting everything on this hand, and in this case it worked out for him. But honestly, I think both players made really good decisions here, and I think it worked out for someone over the other person. But I think both people honestly made a lot of the right choices. It'd be hard for me to say that either player here really made so many of the wrong choices. I think it just worked out for Animorph.
I agree. I think they both made really good choices, and it's hard to make all the perfect ones, and it's easy to slip up somewhere, and it's also you realize it too late, and that feeling is really tough in this game in Line War. When you start to feel like you have control, you feel great because you're out here, you're capping all these territories, you're starting to feel pretty good, and suddenly it starts to slip out of your control, and it's a terrible feeling. And there's sometimes you just you it's very difficult to counter it.
It is, and I think we're seeing Animorph play the smart game here. We've seen him self-destruct a few buildings here. What he's doing is he's clearing up some economy. He's building some new capacity because he knows he has a huge army already. Animorph does not need to keep building an even more massive army. He quickly needs to transform his economy into a naval-based economy. He needs to 180 his whole military production in the next few minutes here, and he's going to need a lot of money to do that. So that's why you're seeing him self-destruct so many of those buildings. Frankly, I think he's safe to do that. He knows Juiceless is not going to be able to build a military to rival him in short time. There's not enough time, for him to do that. So he is safe to kind of break those down for now. I think it's a debate. It could be worth instead like just shutting them down. And yes, you don't get the full benefit of destroying them, but you could save it for later if you need to start building stuff again. But I think he's betting that he has a big army and that's going to last him.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it was an excellent move to start destroying these, free up that capital from the upkeep, and maybe bring producers closer. So we've seen him going for, and he can afford it. So he's building more power plants here. And I think his plan is bring all of this artillery down. He wants to ship it over. And another good move is since he doesn't have the energy really yet, but he's going to capture these, so it'll be okay, I think. But he can put this artillery by the coastline and defend. So even if Useless has got those cruisers out here, the artillery fires just as long as the cruisers do. So when you position your artillery along the coastline, if you manage to produce, or if he wants to build a shipyard there, that's not a problem. They can help defend, and he's got a lot of artillery there. He's also got some helicopters, and I don't think Useless has got any missile ships. No. Useless is trying a sneaky move here by sending over. So he's got a couple of factories here, and he's shipped all of his initial captures. They've been around the globe. They've traveled this whole archipelago here, and now they're going back here. But I think it's going to be a difficult move. But it's definitely, I mean, it's the it's the end game or the final of the losers bracket. So you might as well pour every effort that you have and try to do something here. Maybe he can come up with some surprise move.
Yeah, and I think here we'd see some people accuse Useless of maybe extending the game here unnecessarily. I would argue differently. I think he has a real shot to come back at this only because he has already successfully landed back on the continent. He can keep the fight on the continent. And those are, again, those are flipped territory. So he's taking away money from Animorph and adding it to his own pocket. So flipped territory is what he needs right now. And even if he can just keep Animorph distracted and build up the economy back on these islands, he might be able to counterland in some places. He might be able to give Animorph a lot to think about. Remember, Animorph had a lot of success attacking in a lot of places and giving Juiceless a lot to think about. If Juiceless can do that back to him, if he can land in multiple places, attack from multiple angles, and really give Animorph a lot to think about and start to flip some of those territories, even if he can flip 2s and 3s along the coast, he can start to chip away at that economic advantage and maybe turn this around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because he's trying to go for the trade routes now. So he's got a port up here already, and he's got this port. So this trade route just got operational here. The economy is definitely in Animorph's favor. We've got 1188 for Useless, and Animorph's at a whopping, I think, 1490. Well, it's not a huge difference, but it is it is a significant difference. And this is going to be a problem because all of this artillery is just going to edge its way over these mountains and fire at anything that's coming at it. So I cannot see any of these producers surviving. I don't think Useless is. The only thing Useless is, it would have had a shot at right now. This is going to go down. This is not going to last. But if he can get the trade routes, maybe a surprise attack, maybe a rocket here to clear the coastlines, if he could afford it. But it costs a lot of money to invest in these, and they take a long time to produce as well. And time is nothing that Useless has really got. But saying that, I also want to mention that when you're in Animorph's position, see all of these units here, it starts to become a little bit of a frustration too, because you get a little bit paralyzed sometimes. Like, what should I do now? I'm controlling everything. What should I do? And I've actually lost games where it feels like this, and you go, oh yeah, I got the main. And then suddenly the economy blooms, and you realize that you can't get off the main island, and then you start to get attacked from some weird angles. You might get some commando drops and stuff. But it would be, I mean, it's looking like a very difficult thing to do in a long shot. But like you said, it's the final game, and I think it's definitely worth trying, considering that the economy is fairly not even, but it's not a landslide difference.
No, and I think this is the game, right? If there was ever the game to lay it all on the line, try something crazy, try to make it work, this is the game to try it in, right? You're trying to make it into the finals. This is to see who takes on Orbnet for the crown. And however, I have to say again, I feel like both players are making really good decisions. Useless is attacking; he's landing where he can. But Animorph, if you look back at Animorph's side, he made a lot of investments into city. Look at that; he's got his industry up, he's got towns up. He's putting the money where it needs to go. He banked a lot of his production. He took off a lot of his production, took that money and banked it into the economy. He was kind of providing himself some insurance so that whatever Useless does, he had the money to respond to it. So I think that was wise of him to do. If all three of those cities go up, there's no way Useless is going to be able to bring the economy back from that. Animorph will be able to secure the victory. So I would say Useless has the next 10 minutes to flip this game around. He's going to have to do something different now.
Yeah, and what that different is, I do not know. Because like you said, those you see the cities, the cranes are constructing these cities now. This part is falling, that attempt failed. And I think he's making some really clever decisions. He's bunkering up now on his energy. He's building a depot. And he's got 3 airports, and Useless doesn't have anything up here to protect anything. He's got a few infantry. They're going to hate seeing those aircraft coming in, and that's going to pave the way here. And I'm guessing we're going to see a shipyard coming up here any moment now, because this is a lot of units that's just ready to start blasting their way into enemy territory there.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either, but I hesitate to say anything because earlier in this game, it looked like Animorph was finished. We saw a time Animorph was pushed back to his forest. Useless had beat him on all 3 fronts and was closing in on Animorph's home base. And look where we are today, right? I mean, it's a complete different. You can see the scars of their war. Really fought over that mainland. Like we said, on these maps where you have that big mainland in the middle, those big main battles tend to take place between the two. And it's about maintaining that battle. And I think we saw Useless unable to maintain that battle after a while. He just got outproduced, and it's one of those things where Animorph had the early economy. I think Useless at the time looked like he was going to have the late game economy, but Useless made a bet on his early economy and he won on that bet. And I think if we're not seeing, hopefully that trade route can help, but we're going to need to see something change here from Useless's side. If Animorph gets a single landing off, that's going to spell the end.
Yeah, we've got. It's pretty impressive that he managed to actually reconquer all of this, of course, and then he's got 2 trade routes going right now. We've got 3 towns here, a city, and but again, countering all of this landmass and the cities that are coming up here, plus all the already prepared troops here. And we did see the 4 shipyards going up as well, and I'm guessing all of these are going to start producing a lot of. He only needs to produce troop ships now because the aircraft here would. He's got 3 airports. And he can take out anything that he throws. These 2 missile ships are going to go down pretty quick. They get outnumbered. But again, I have to commend him for trying. You should definitely lay it out there. I mean, he did manage to conquer this, and it's a big, expensive lesson learned about the mainland there. That's where it was lost, I think. So I guess we could actually fast forward a little bit here to see how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting thing to point out here. I think this is a rare example where we saw someone use those power plants to really good effect. Animorph only needed a little bit of power. He didn't really have it in spades, but he had enough to give him options, and he used it and beat the guy with more energy on the mainland. So I think that's something for players to take away here. Sometimes if you want to get the position, but the position lacks energy, make a bet dare to make a bet on power plants. It worked out, for Animorph here, and I think, I think at the beginning of this, Animorph had to know going into this that he didn't have the energy on his side, and that he was giving up that advantage. But I think he bet that he could get the economic advantage early based on the territorial conquest, and that he could bet on that. And I've said it multiple times, but I think it happened to work out for him.
Yeah, and everything that Useless is trying now is always going to be too little, too late. As he mounts this, he's managed to build up a massive force here now, and he's produced the troop ships. He's got a lot of submarines that he might not necessarily need, because we haven't seen much Navy at all from Animorph, even though he's going to produce some in the north. But I think... and we saw the rocket as well coming up here. It's actually being produced now. So, I'd say that the moves that he's doing are really good, but it's always going to be, unfortunately, too late. But this is nice. He did actually sneak some commandos. I like that. I have to say that he's pulling off what he can, at least, to do things. And he's going to be able... Oh, no, he's running out of energy now.
The energy. Yeah. The energy is the problem. That's what I was waiting. I was going to say that next. But so what I like about this naval invasion is he's doing a 5-length naval invasion. I would love for the players here to take note of this. I see so many naval invasions that are a 1-line naval invasion, and you get those landing ships just form that conga line, and they'll drop a couple of troops off, and then they retreat, and then the next one drops a couple of troops off. That's never how you should. I recommend people do naval invasions. You want to land a lot of troops all at once, all together, so that they can instantly work together to win the contested landing. Now, it doesn't look like we're getting a contested landing here, but you don't know that, right? Going in, we know that because we can see both sides. But having multiple dropships land at the same time is always how you want to do these naval invasions. Though I think Useless is going to have to shut off everything else he has besides the landing ships.
Yeah, may I actually add to that? Those 5 lanes, you actually need more than one energy or refinery to produce and power all of those. But I totally agree with everything that you said. This is when you produce this many troops, you definitely want the 5 lanes. You want to ship on bandwidth. You want to go not just have them fighting over a single canal movement there. But again, it really commend him on the effort in trying. but it's just, and he can't even build on this energy well because you can see the Animorph has got helicopters there that get spotted. So it's, and the rocket that's getting produced is not going to be able to fire because he needs the energy for that. And now we're starting to see the landing up here that we knew was going to happen as well. We've even got, I thought it was just going to be a lot of landing crafts being produced here because he had so much air. But we're seeing that Animorph is building a navy. Also a good move because if he wants to just go out and erase everything down here on Useless, everything is just reachable from the sea. Every single penny that is earned over the past 30 minutes is just going to be able to be erased by this navy.
Yeah, and you can see both sides are doing these multiple line landings, and you can see how it gives you a 4-second fight and maneuver right away instead of having just a couple of troops at a time, and then you're walking in, getting shot one by one. So both players, again, making good decisions. I think this is honestly the hard part about this game is I feel like both players have played really well, and I honestly feel like both players could have made the same sets of decisions, and if the timing was just a little off, we could see a completely different game right now. I think if Animorph had made the same bet he made, that early game economy, but Useless had a little bit more time to build up his islands, it might not have been enough. And I think we could have saw Useless successfully pushing back. I really think the decision making here has been really good from both players. I think the only defining factor is the timing. I think the timing happened to be it's looking like it's worked out better for Animorph, but I really honestly can't fault either player for a lot of the way they played this game.
I agree, and imagine if Useless would have been able to hold out another 5 minutes or so, and if he could have pulled back his defenses, maybe reallocated some of the naval costs there into land-based ones, imagine what it would have looked like. It would have been a totally different game altogether because it would have been under this would have been under Useless control, and it would have been we would have had attacks coming from the South Island on any peninsula that you can see. So I think all the right moves and decisions are being made out here. It was literally lost over this central piece. The thing that was not allowed to happen for Useless in this case.
Yeah, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. So I guess we could probably speed this one up here. I think at this point what we're seeing is Useless try to pull out every last thing he can. I think he's really hoping to win this beach landing here on the southern continent. But the thing, Animorph he's got the helicopters coming in, he's got the air support, he's got plenty of production here. He's got his invasions going very well on the other island. I think it's clear at this point where the game is going, but this is a championship match, so I do not blame Useless at all for trying to fight this one out. And especially, like I said before this match even started, Useless has got some scalps. He's really taken out some big players. He's come out of the depths of the ranks and claimed big names off his win. He took out the number 2 player in the world in nickname. While it does look like Useless is going to go down in this match, Useless has carved his name in gunpowder and nukes in the history books of Line War here. And I want to commend him for his participation in this tournament. We're gonna get one last nuke out of Useless, a Defiant. Oh, look at this! That's a big landing.
I know. This must be so frustrating for him because I can just feel, I know this feeling all too well. Everything that you do, you've got stuff, you don't have the energy. You had the forces, but you lost the Northwest instead. And everything, you feel like you're doing the right things, and it just happens too late. And see, imagine if he would have been able to ship this across earlier, after all of the troops were up in the north there, and he destroyed all these producers. Again, 10 minutes ago, it would have been, it's an incredible invasion he's pulling off here. So again, like you said, we cannot blame him for not throwing in the towel, but it's just frustrating for him to see how this is just disappearing into the fog of war now. So again, as we predicted a little bit earlier, we saw the momentum shifting, and he got the control down here, but gradually he was just going to lose the north there. And here comes the big Animorph navy now that's going to just take out anything here that's coming this way. Even if Useless got all the cruisers, they're going to be lined up out of energy and just eaten up one by one. So I think it must be, again, frustrating, but he's played so well. I think both of them have played incredibly well in this tournament, and it's been really much fun to see. I'm looking forward to seeing all the matches between these guys that I haven't seen before as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I definitely think that I would 100% expect to see both of these guys in future tournaments, and both of these guys are going to be names to watch. If anyone comes up against any of these guys, they're going to know that they're going up against the best line war commanders in the world, and that we're seeing two of the top players right now finish off this match. And we have a very respectable invasion out of Useless there, but his navy is lost to Animorph, and I think that's going to be the sign. I think that's going to let Useless know that this game is no longer viable at this point in time. Look how far that invasion got, though. He got naval, he got artillery all the way back up to kind of his old positions.
Yeah,
he's fighting over some of the old ground.
I think Animorph was probably surprised to see how much actually managed to land there, because and not that I don't think he was afraid at any point, but he was probably surprised to see all of it. And we've seen a lot of oh, there's a lot of puffs of smoke. I don't think I've seen this much smoke in a game ever.
No, Useless is really trying to keep this landing supplied, but he doesn't have the energy, and I think that's honestly, he had plenty of cruisers. He might have been able to fight some of that. I don't know that he would have won anyway, but he couldn't get his cruisers into position because he didn't have the energy. He couldn't keep the landers going, supplying the war, and fight a naval battle at the same time. He just didn't have the gas for it. And now we're seeing it end here. But I think he throws in the towel here, pays his respects to Animorph, who has secured his right to challenge the current. I think we would all agree that Orbnet is kind of seen as the uncrowned king right now, as far as Lion War goes. And for him to finally seize his crown, it looks like we are going to finally see him in the finals with Animorph for the championship.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting. So big congrats to Animorph there for playing so well, and for persisting and doing the clever move of hiding everything up here in the forest. And then everything was logistically performed very well after that. He destroyed his producers, started to counterattack anything there, and just had the patience to build the northwest attack and build a navy. It takes patience as well. And he knew that Useless had everything at sea. The economy that he did manage to build up was going to be at seaborne, so it was a good move to create that big navy. And then again, from Useless, just into the last man, or even he's got so much artillery protecting this coastline. So again, big credits to both players. Very well played. I was really happy to see how this one played out. So it's going to be... so we've got Animorph and Orbnet are going to play the final. And we're going to do coverage of that, of course, as well. So just after this stream now, we'll update the tournament site. And we'll update the score, and I'm not exactly sure at exactly what time the finals will be played, but we're going to announce it and air it in time before the results go up, so you'll be able to watch the final as well, of course, on this Twitch channel, and we'll upload it to YouTube afterwards as well.
100%. And I think, we have seen some of the greatest matches I've ever watched in this tournament. A lot of crazy tactics, a lot of comeback wins. I think I would count this as a comeback. I want to remind people that Animorph was looking pretty in danger earlier on. Although it looks like a dominant win now, but that was not the case, 20 minutes, 30 minutes into this match. So we've seen more than one come from behind win in this tournament. We've seen more than one dominant performance, and we just don't know what's going to happen in this last one. Orbnet has won all of his matches pretty convincingly, I think, but Animorph is he's a contender, man. He's really fought to the top. He's the champion of the losers bracket. So he's won that tournament. But now it's time to see who will take the crown, who will be crowned as the first ever champion of Lion War, the king of Lion War, and we're gonna find that out pretty soon. Do we know when we might be able to get this last match set up?
I'm not sure when they're, since we couldn't finish it on the weekend, they've got the freedom to be able to organize themselves. I know Orbnet is, he's finding it difficult, I think, to play during the weekdays. But hopefully they'll find a time where they can do match up together, and we'll get the word when that's happened. and then we'll be able to air it before any of the results go up. So just stay up to date maybe in the Discord and have a look at that. You should also mention as well that the final, if Orbnet wins the final, it's only one match because Orbnet is undefeated in the winners bracket. So if he wins the first encounter that he has against Animorph, he will win. However, if Animorph wins the first game in the final against Orbnet, then it's actually going to be another match because basically it's like sending Orbnet to the losers bracket, but he's bouncing right back up. So he gets his second chance just like all the others have gotten to go through the... So it could be either one game if Orbnet wins, or it could be 2 games if Animorph wins too. So he has to do quite a feat. He actually has to defeat Orbnet twice to get the crown. So
yeah, I know.
It's not an easy feat.
We're asking a lot of Animorph here. So I think everyone would agree that Orbnus is the favorite to win. Animorph is the underdog. I see some people supporting in the chat. Let me know in the chat who you think is going to win. Is it going to be Orbnet or is it going to be Animorph? Or who are you supporting? Who you rooted for here? I think a lot of us would like to see maybe Animorph win just because it would really blow it up, and then we would really not know like who's the best, who's really going to be. But I think it's Orbnet's tournament to lose right now. I think all eyes are on him. He's kind of taken the spotlight here. He's proved himself that he didn't just have the #1 spot on the ladder as a fluke, that he earned it, he deserved it. He deserved that #1 spot. And now it's up to it's up to Animorph to say that no, he's the true king of Line War. And he's got to not beat him once but twice. That's going to be huge. And if he can pull that off, I guarantee you, Animorph will go down in the history books. He'll be a legend for that. If he can beat Orbnet twice in a row, that will be incredible.
Yeah, coming up through the losers bracket, it's quite a lot of extra work because that also did drag out a lot more extra time. So there was a lot of waiting there, whereas Orbnet reached the final fairly, well, I'd say fast, but it was still quite a few hours. But I think also the pressure is going to be on Orb, I think, because as an underdog, when you come through, you've won all the matches. I think Orbnet won all of his group matches, and he did win all of the ones in the finals. So there's one more that he needs to win, and maybe that adds a lot of extra pressure as well to his mindset coming in, because now he really has to win if he wants to get that crown.
If you want to think of tournament games as people's professional record, Orbnet is essentially 7-0. He's undefeated in professional play. That said, I mean, I guess that would make Animorph. He's only 6-1, right? So he's not that far off. And the only person he dropped it to was Valathor, and Valathor is another best in the world player. And Valathor only went down to Orbnet. So if he's the math works out to say Animorph has every chance at winning this. But we will see. We will see when they can push that match together. If it takes to the weekend, then you know that you'll find me and Infenzia will be around any hour, any time. try to bring you guys that match. Trust me, we'll get it to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, so stay updated. Join the Discord if you're not there already. And if you're seeing this retrospectively, I don't know how to say it. Retroactively, yeah. Just join the Discord and check us out there, and then you'll find the tournament channels down there as well. And if you see this and the finals has happened as well, you can still catch it on video on demand. And if it's not on Twitch, it should be on our YouTube channel because we'll archive it there for a very long time. So I think that's us signing out. I think thanks a lot for watching, and thanks to Michael as well. You've done an amazing job. You did a lot of commentary for the finals there, and we're very thankful for all the stuff that you're doing for Line War. It's helping us out a bunch, and it's doing really good for the community.
Happy to do it. Line War is an exciting game. We have a really great community. We have a really great bench of generals, Line War commanders out there. Not just the people in the tournament, but the people watching throughout the community. All of you guys have really built up this whole community to be what it is today. You guys are the reason we're doing this. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you, Infenzia and Basantos, for making this game.
All right. Thanks a lot, Michael, and thanks, everyone. And signing out now. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.